I love Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush is a 2012 action-adventure game released for the PlayStation Vita. The game centers around a girl named Kat, who wakes up with no memory of her past. She finds herself in a town called Hexaville, a place that has been broken apart by gravity storms, and it's up to her to put it back together, learning more about the world and about herself in the process. The game got a remaster and a sequel a few years after its initial release, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. Today, I get to divulge in my unhealthy hyperfixation with the game by going over the Gravity Rush Iceberg, created by SHEEAAGH on Reddit. And the blue sky. They also really wanted me to mention the blue sky. Just a fair warning before we start, there will be major spoilers for this game and its sequel. So if you're planning to play the game or in the process of it, bookmark this video, experience the game for yourself. You won't regret it, I promise. And then come back. With that out of the way, let's begin. PS Vita. The PlayStation Vita is Sony's second handheld console, released in late 2011 and is where Gravity Rush originally released. The PS Vita was a very powerful console for its time, more than its competition, the Nintendo 3DS. While it did have strong first-party support, it unfortunately did not get enough third-party support, and along with some questionable design decisions, the PS Vita did not perform very well, which is a damn shame, because it's my personal favorite handheld. Japan Studio. Japan Studio was the original developers for Siren, Ape Escape, and most relevant, Gravity Rush. In December of 2020 and January of 2021, major heads from the studio left for other creative endeavors, and in February of the same year, the majority of Japan Studio was shuttered due to lack of profitability. What remains of Japan Studio now became Team Asobi. Gravity Rush, the Animation Overture. The Gravity Rush Overture is a two-part animated OVA released in December of 2016. Animated by Studio Kara, known for the Rebuild of Evangelion series, the OVA acts as a bridge between the events of Gravity Rush and Gravity Rush 2, as well as a teaser of what to expect for the sequel. Arc of Time, Raven's Choice. Raven's Choice is a DLC story for Gravity Rush 2. It was originally going to be paid DLC, but was made free as an apology after the game was delayed from its December 2016 release date to January of 2017. The DLC delves into the story of who Raven is and what happened to the Ark in the first game. It's a fun DLC, but man, it makes Raven's story so messy to understand. Gravity Days, Kitten, and Crow. The original Japanese name of the game was Gravity Days, and the shifters were known as Gravity Kitten and Gravity Crow before they were given their localized names of Cat and Raven. Gravity Rush Costume DLC. Hey, remember these outfits? If you're like me and have only played the remaster on PS4, you were none the wiser. But in the original PS Vita release, the spy, maid, and military costumes were all paid DLC, and they came with extra challenges to flesh out the story for $3.99 each. Thankfully, all of these were included for free in the remaster. Defunct Gravity Rush 2 servers. When Gravity Rush 2 came out, the game had online servers that allowed players to compete with player ghosts in challenge missions, share in-game photos, and earn Dusty tokens to unlock costumes for Cat. It was announced that the servers were going to shut down after a single year of operation, but due to campaigning from the community, the shutdown was pushed back by 6 months. The servers eventually shut down on July 18th, 2018, leaving players who haven't gotten to experience online with no legitimate way to unlock all of Cat's costumes. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale is a crossover platform fighter developed by Superbot Entertainment featuring, well, a strange hodgepodge of Sony mascots and third-party characters. Cat was added to the game as a DLC fighter, and if I remember correctly, she was also one of the more over-tuned fighters. but I never got to play online, so I can't say. There were also plans for a DLC stage in the game that would feature the world of Gravity Rush crossing over with Journey, as a chunk of Venda Center gets pulled from Hexaville into a desert landscape. Unfortunately, the idea was close to being finished but was scrapped due to either Superbot or Sony dropping support for the game. Keiichiro Toyama. He is the man behind the game. Toyama is the creator of a few games that you might have heard of, such as the original Silent Hill, the Siren series, and of course, Gravity Rush. In 2020, he left Japan Studio to form his own game studio called Bokeh Game Studio, creating he created Slitterhead. Kohei Tanaka. Kohei Tanaka is a Japanese composer previously known for working on One Piece and Sakura Wars. He has composed several, if not all, of the tracks in both Gravity Rush and Gravity Rush 2, which is the music you're hearing right now in the background. White Cat Costume. The White Cat costume is a costume in Gravity Rush 2 that can only be obtained through pre-ordering the game. Or if you're feeling kind of quirky, you could also modify your save file. But you didn't hear it from me. So if you missed that window, tough shit! Phantasy Star Online 2 and 2B Costume. I'm lumping these two together. These are free DLC costumes for Gravity Rush 2, which features costumes based on 2B from Nier Automata, and Crazy Kitten from Phantasy Star Online 2. I personally loved using the 2B costume, mostly because I think it looks pretty, and if you think it's for any other reason, stop. As for the PSO2 collab, there's a bit more to it than just the costume. In November of 2016, Phantasy Star Online 2 updated to include Gravity Rush themed costumes of Cat and Raven, along with lobby actions of the Gravity Slide and the Gravity Manipulation. I didn't know until SHEEAAGH made a note of this, and that's largely due to the fact that Phantasy Star Online 2 never reached North America until 2020, 4 years after the collab was announced. Mobius/French comic inspiration. According to Keiichiro Toyama, one of the biggest inspirations for Gravity Rush's visual style is Franco-Belgian comics, specifically the works of Jean Girard or Mobius. Looking at the two side by side, it becomes quite clear how much influence the look had on the first game, with how distant structures are rendered, with a lot of focus on contoured lines. Astrobot cameo. If you're a Gravity Rush fan, such as myself, you've probably seen it before, and Astrobot's been out for a while, but if you wish to see this for yourself, click here to skip spoilers. I mean, sure, they're pretty minor, but, you know, it wouldn't hurt, unless you really don't care. In Team Asobi's Astrobot, you can find VIP bot versions of Cat and Raven, as well as making Cat a playable costume for the protagonist. Additionally, Cat made her own appearance in Astro's Playroom, a tech demo for the PS5 where she can be seen playing with an apple. Gravity Rush Central. Gravity Rush Central is a fan site documenting any and all things Gravity Rush related. You can check out their website, link in the description, or their Blue Sky, also in the description. Shoutouts to them for helping me fill out some of the blanks in the Iceberg, because some of this stuff is like really niche and it's really cool that they have them here. Hashtag Don't Forget Gravity Rush. This hashtag was part of a conceited effort by the Gravity Rush community to push back against the Gravity Rush 2 server shutdown. While it was the catalyst that pushed the deadlines for the server shutdown, as mentioned earlier, the extension was only 6 months, so the server still shut down after only 18 months of operation. A red apple, aku antua. Aku antua, or a red apple, could arguably be considered to be the main theme of Gravity Rush 2. It first plays in episode 8, and it's featured in full in the credits, sung in the weird French-Japanese pseudo language. The song is partially translated in-game, but the original full translation of the song is in Japanese. Thankfully, the Gravity Rush wiki proves to be a lifesaver, as it has been translated into English. Shoutouts to Nien Catamus Prime on Reddit for the translation. Link in the description. The lyrics are evoking a sense of hope and freedom from the darkness below. If you actually pay attention, I know I didn't my first time around, you'll notice that it shares the same leitmotif as the first half of Discovery of Gravitation. The song's leitmotif appears fucking everywhere, from the previously mentioned Discovery of Gravitation, part 2 of the Overture OVA where Sid hums the melody, Lake Holmosna, post chapter 8, the Game Over screen, and most importantly, Eto, where we learned that the song came from a music box passed down from her grandmother when she told bedtime stories. There's a surprising amount of weight and emotional baggage to the song that it honestly deserves its own deep dive. Dose shi nundakara. This is the credit song of the first Gravity Rush game, and unlike a Red Apple, this song is actually translated in from Japanese. Hi, Editor Diego here. Turns out that the song is not sung in Japanese, but the title still sure as hell is. Please disregard what this dumbass just said, but we'll get into the meaning of the title just in a bit. Just hold on. The general message is, everything you do is futile, everyone eventually dies. Fun! The title itself also translates to you're gonna die anyway, so... If you also have a musical ear, you'll also notice that it shares the same musical leitmotif from the second half of Discovery of Gravitation, which my dumbass also didn't catch. Now, I've already mentioned the Nihilist lyrics, but what's interesting is how its musical motif is paired with the motif of a red apple in Discovery of Gravitation. Especially given how that song is a complete tonal opposite to this one. Players can draw parallels between these songs and the thematic tones and story beats across both games, such as the roles of the creator in both games, the thematic role and symbolism of the darkness at the bottom of the world pillar, the events of Ito, but if I'm to speak any more of this, I won't be able to finish my thoughts before the destructive force kills us all, and we still have 3 more layers to get to, so let's move on. Side note, I couldn't figure out a way to naturally transition into this entry, but I want to include this information because I think it was really interesting. According to an interview with GameSpot, Toyama came up with the song during a bout of frustration with the direction of Gravity Rush's development when the 2011 earthquakes hit, allowing him to, quote-unquote, reacquaint himself with death. It inspired him to, quote-unquote, live in the moment without thinking too much, which is how this song came to be, which I suppose would recontextualize a couple of things. Gravity Rush community event in Mexico City. In 2012, on the Latin American PlayStation blog, PR specialist Lorenzo Hrales made a post announcing a community event celebrating the then upcoming release of Gravity Rush for the PS Vita. The event was held on June 12th, and allowed attendees to experience the game early, meet with developers of Japan Studio, and win prizes. Concept art designs. In Gravity Rush Remastered, there's a gallery that players can check out to see the artwork of all of the characters, including some early designs that range from mildly interesting to wildly different characters. Alias was originally going to have an Anubis-inspired look, along with what appears to be pseudo-Yakuza-looking markings in one of the concepts. Concept art for Cat includes radically different designs from the final. Raven had one in a hoodie that kinda made me wish we had Raven costumes as well. Cyania leaned towards more gothic influences. Gade appeared more frail and arguably diseased in my opinion. Early Nevi designs actually having eyeballs instead of glowing cores. And a few others that received notable changes from concept to final. Additionally, in December of 2018, Japan Studio held an event to commemorate the studio's several releases, showing off some more art that we'll get into further detail deeper in the Iceberg. Gravity Cat commercial. Gravity Cat is a commercial originally published by PlayStation of Japan to advertise Gravity Rush 2. The ad features two Japanese women taking care of a kitten when suddenly the cat starts exhibiting gravity shifting powers that soon affects the women and the contents in their environment. The commercial received great acclaim and won 3 awards from different award shows. The original release has been privatized, but mere uploads of Gravity Cat exist on YouTube. Talismans. Talismans are collectibles in Gravity Rush 2. They take the appearance of really ornate stones, and they can be found randomly in mining sites, getting gold medals in challenge missions, or through completing side missions. These talismans can be equipped to change certain game mechanics such as automatic stasis, increased damage, changes to Jupiter or lunar styles, or you can, destroy them. You could do that too, I guess. Cat x Raven. A fan pairing that ships Cat and Ravens as girlfriends. While it's not exactly confirmed in game, there's some evidence that shows that they might just be more than roommates. Gravity Rush 2 manga. The Gravity Rush 2 manga is a Japanese-only adaptation of the game. The manga adapts and condenses the first half of the game's story, from the ending of OVA all the way up to Chapter 12, Black Eagle. There are a few noticeable differences between the game and the manga, such as how Chapter 4 plays out, the way Cat gets her gravity styles, showing how Raven was turned into Nightingale, as well as these cute outfit panels at the end of each volume. It only received 2 volumes and was again Japanese exclusive. However, there are fan translations of the manga available online. DGTV made a video detailing of all the changes that I haven't mentioned as well, so if you want to go further into it, I'll have a link in the description. Sagasi. In Gravity Rush 2, there's a character called Sagasi, whom you never meet in person, but has left behind several paintings across Jirga Paralao and Hexaville. Parallels can be drawn between the character of Sagasi and real-world artist Banksy, but the paintings he leaves behind hold a lot more lore implications than what first meets the eye, such as the creation of the world, the origins of Black and White Nevi, the destructive force, the dawn of mankind, the origins of Ito and Hexaville, and a lot more. They're also mentioned to be super valuable to anyone who claims them. Gravity Rush movie. There's been rumors and murmurs of a Gravity Rush movie being made, but no news or press material about it has come out, and it remains so as just that, a rumor. That is, until January of 2024, where it appears that pre-production footage of a Gravity Rush film was being revealed at Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, and it looks, merchandise. There's surprisingly not a lot of merch for Gravity Rush fans. I shouldn't be surprised given how niche it is, but what does exist appears to be fairly high quality, such as Figmas of Cat and Raven, keychains, statues, pins, and that's not even including fan works. Gravity Days comic and Gravity Daydream comic. Lumping these two together, Gravity Days and Gravity Daydream are a short run of comics meant to advertise the Vita game before launch. Days is a slice of life as it shows Cat's life in Hexaville and showcases her abilities. Daydream is a bit more whimsical, as the title suggests. It delves into the dreams of Cat, Raven, and Unica. Both comic series had 4 issues before launch, though they would get 1 more post-launch. Days had an issue that showed how Raven got into the Inferno Rift, and Daydream had an issue celebrating Cat's anniversary as a promo for Gravity Rush 2. Both of these comics are available in the Gravity Days art book, though only in Japanese, while the Gravity Rush wiki has the English translations. Side note! Can't believe that they casually dropped Unica having a crush on Cat, that's crazy. Delvul Trench Mine Layers. The Delvul Trench Mine is a mining zone you can visit in Gravity Rush 2. The trench acts as a dungeon gauntlet, having several layers, like about 50, that mimics the look of each of the mining sites. Each layer contains Nevi of increasing strength and previous bosses you have beaten throughout the story. However, you can only access these layers when the game indicates that there is a gravitational anomaly in the announcement section. Cutscenes hidden in Gravity Rush 2 files. This is an extra entry that wasn't included in the original Iceberg. That's right, we're still finding more bullshit! In June of 2025, Reddit user Mindcrafters discovered 2 hidden cutscenes in Gravity Rush 2. The first one shows Raven appearing with a superhero entrance, and the second one shows Cat and Raven doing a team-up attack on a giant Nevi. It's unknown what these cutscenes could have been used for, but it's speculated that it originates from a build for Tokyo Game Show 2015. Something else of note is that Raven retains her original design, while Cat is in her Shifter 2.0 redesign, suggesting that Raven's new look hadn't been finalized yet. Full Circle Rainbow. In Jirga Palau, except for Leogona, because it's fucking dark down there, a rainbow can be seen decorating the sky, but you'll notice that it's actually a full circle as opposed to the typical arch you might be used to. This is actually a real phenomena called circular rainbows. If you go flying when certain conditions are right, you'll be able to see a full ring, so I think that's a really neat touch from the developers. Norihiko Takami. Norihiko Takami was an artist in Japan studio, having worked on the Siren series and Puppeteer. Keyword here is was, as he unfortunately passed away during the development of Gravity Rush 2. In Radale National Park in Lake Olmosna, players can find a guitar-shaped memorial with icons of the 3 games he's worked on. Every August 10th, flowers bloom around the memorial site. Hot Shots Golf appearance. In the PS Vita launch title, Hot Shots Golf World Invitational, or Everybody's Golf 6, Cat makes a guest appearance as a playable DLC character. She sold for 99 cents on the PlayStation Network, and she's considered an expert character. She comes with her maid outfit as an alternate costume, and her appearance in-game is referenced in Issue 4 of Gravity Daydream. Fireworks Easter Egg. In Gravity Rush 2, there's a rare Easter egg where fireworks are shot up into the skies of Plejun. No one knows what the specific trigger for this occurrence is, but you can fly towards them if you want. It'll hurt, but it won't damage you. Clock Goo. In Lake Olmosna, the clock in the Overlook Plaza fountain syncs with the PS4's internal clock. When the time hits 12, the clock opens up to show a fire-breathing goat. What? Gravity Memories. Gravity Memories is a fanzine project made to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the original game's release. The zine has contributions from several artists, cosplayers, and writers, selling bundles of the zine with additional memorabilia. The proceeds from the zine sales went directly to the Save the Children Foundation. Hindu mythology inspirations. Throughout Gravity Rush 2, parallels can be drawn between the characters in the game along with Hindu mythology. The names Kali and Durga are derived from goddesses of the same name, with the former associated with time and death, and the latter associated with protection and motherhood. Something that I neglected to mention until doing last-minute research on this entry, Kali and Durga, despite their differences, are still parts of one whole, with some overlap between them and the other avatars of Parvati, Shiva's consort. Whether or not they're one and the same depends on who you ask, but you can draw parallels with both characters and how they act in-game. Kali is depicted as a very violent and angry individual, fitting in line with Kali Angel's behavior in the latter half of the Hexville chapter, while Durga, as mentioned before, is a protective figure, which is personified in Durga Angel's abilities to create protective barriers and crystalline shields during your first and second battles with the angels. Dr. Brahman also draws inspiration from mythology as the Hindu concept of the supreme universal spirit, which, given that he created the Angel Sisters, is probably the most logical thing here. Special Nevi. In the Rift Plains of Gravity Rush and the mining sites of Gravity Rush 2, Special Nevi can be found tucked away in certain areas. These Nevi are typically mean, green, killing machines with higher damage resistance, attack speed, and damage output. What happened to Singlor and Nala? In Gravity Rush, you can find a mysterious couple that, when interacted with, start a conversation but are interrupted when they disappear, reappearing somewhere else and continuing their conversation as if nothing happened. These two are Singlor and Nala, husband and wife. Singlor was experimenting with gravity to save the world from the darkness below, and they're lost in space-time due to an accident where one of Singlor's machines released a lot of gravitational energy after Nala tampered with it. At the end of these conversations, both of them are pulled away into another dimension, only to never be seen again. However, if you beat the Raven's Choice DLC in Gravity Rush 2, you'll notice that Singlor and Nala are back together. So, what happened? Raven's Choice was about fixing space-time after Dr. Brahman tried to open the Ark to free the lost kids from the first game, retconning the events of the first game and Raven's origins. But how does it explain the couple's sudden reappearance? Did retconning the events somehow affect the condition in the first game? Did it also retcon the accident that led to their temporal trouble? I don't fucking know! Unica is a child soldier. According to the Gravity Rush wiki, which claims to have gotten its information from a book called Gravity Days 2: The Complete Guide, they mentioned that Unica is 17. Now, question is, was she 17 in Gravity Rush 1 or 2? Because there's a 3-year time skip in Hexaville between the two games. And if Unica is 17 in Gravity Rush 2, then that means she's been serving the military at age 14, which is, playing as Raven in the open world. In Gravity Rush 2, the game doesn't give you much opportunities to play as Raven, only letting you control her during episodes 24 and 27, along with the Raven's Choice DLC. Players don't really get to play around with Raven very much outside of those moments. That is, until a glitch was discovered that allowed players to bring out Raven into the open world and complete story and side missions. Of course, since it is a glitch, players can only go so far before experiencing unintended consequences, but it appears that she's mostly functional. Shunsuke Saito Twitter fan art. Shunsuke Saito was the art director and an animator for Gravity Rush. Between the release of Gravity Rush Remastered and his departure from Sony Interactive, there was a period of time where he drew people's comments and requests. Some of these pieces include these ones as Cat and Raven as adults, and this one of Cat as a child, which, while technically unofficial, is interesting to see how her life in Edo might have looked like. There's also this piece I want to mention, which is just Kaede and Cat together in a single piece, as well as this piece, which I originally thought was Cat cosplaying as Junko, but upon closer inspection, it just appears they have very similar facial features. Other World Pillars. The World Pillar is a towering column in which Hexaville is connected to. In Gravity Rush 1 and 2, there's only one pillar you get to explore, the pillar at the center of Hexaville. However, in your conversations with Nala, she reveals a bit more about the world, such as the existence of another world pillar, with its own world, people, and town. This opens the possibility of other world pillars that may exist in the universe of Gravity Rush. Danganronpa V3 Cross Gravity Rush 2 live broadcast. In December of 2016, the world was graced with a joint livestream with members from Spike Chunsoft and Japan Studio. The livestream was aired on YouTube Live, Nico Nico, and Fresh, and it featured members from both studios discussing and showing off Danganronpa V3 and Gravity Rush 2, as well as giving away these sick banners. So why did they do this? The games were releasing 5 days apart from each other. That's literally it. Let It Die collab. Let It Die is a free-to-play hack-and-slash developed by Grasshopper Manufacture and Super Trick Games, and was published by Gung Ho Online. In 2017, it was announced that the game would have a collab with Gravity Rush 2, releasing a cat costume set and decals based on Cat, Raven, Durga, and Callie, along with a few other miscellaneous additions. The collab only lasted from August 10th to September 6th of 2017. Ragnarok Odyssey Ace. Ragnarok Odyssey Ace is a real-time RPG in a similar vein to the current Monster Hunter games. The game was developed by Game Arts and published by Gung Ho Online. In 2013, the game released with Gravity Rush DLC, containing costumes of Cat and Alias, cards, and other bits and bobs. Destiny of Spirits collaboration. Destiny of Spirits was a free-to-play RPG developed by Q Entertainment and Japan Studio, where players collect yokai, or Native American creatures depending on your region. Being a Japan Studio game, it should be no big surprise that Gravity Rush representation has made its way into the game. The game featured summons of different characters from the game, from Unica to Raven and Alias, and even some to what appear to be exclusive variants of the game, such as Spy Raven, Spy Unica, and the Lady of the Depths. Hey, Editor Diego here again. Turns out that these portraits of Spy Raven and Unica are not unique to this game, but are actually cutouts from Gravity Daydream. The event only ran for a month between April 3rd to May 7th. Cat removed from Sony's Women's Day promo. Oh god, I remember this happening live. Okay, on International Women's Day, March 8th of 2019, Sony came out with this piece of art featuring many female heroines from their catalog of games, including Cat. Then, in 2022, the image was reused for a PlayStation Store promo, and it was edited to include promotional text, inadvertently removing both Sackgirl and Cat from the image, which is horribly unfortunate given the state of both of their home series. Decipherable Hexaville and Jirga languages. The language of Gravity Rush to the normal player appears nonsensical. If you pay attention, you'll catch both conventions of French and Japanese, but it's generally gibberish to understand and read at a glance.
La faiblesse. Raven. Jas Levidula. Zaza Tuse.
However, some clever linguists have found a way to decipher both the languages of Hexaville and Jirga, and I have to emphasize them separately because they have slightly different scripts from each other. Regardless, people were able to make connections between written characters in game with real-world language like English to translate from Gravity to something legible. Gravity Rush pitch video. This may refer to prototype footage released by PlayStation leading up to the release of Gravity Rush. The footage is dated to 2008, which means that the original plan for the game was that it was supposed to release for the PS3, but it had to make the move to the PS Vita to give it something for its library. As seen in the footage, there aren't any huge drastic changes other than higher fidelity graphics and a different looking Hexaville, looking more cramped and claustrophobic, leaning hard into the Mobius influence. Original storyboards. If you remember ages ago when I mentioned Japan Studio holding an event in 2018, this is where we get to talk about it. On December 1st, 2018, during Japan Studio's Fun meeting, developers showed off art that we still had need to discuss later, art we've already discussed, and for this entry, original storyboard art for the initial, arguably complete version of the game before it shifted to the PS Vita. I do want to preface this, sorry for the low quality images, these are about as high resolution as I can get them. There are a lot of notable changes between the original storyboards and the final products we've received, such as the fact that we see Nurse Cat seeing Denelica in the beginning of Chapter 3.1, a figure in the distance in Chapter 3.2 that looks vaguely similar to Callie Angel, a battle between Cat and Raven in Chapter 3.10, and a battle with Wolpertinger in Chapter 4.9. Something I do want to mention is how the darkness takes a different form in the final game, as a big moose rather than the German folklore creature, but the Guardian's name is still Wolp. Just a legacy detail, I guess. Gravity Rush Infinite Skies. Infinite Skies is part of Sony's PlayStation All-Stars Island, a bizarre mobile game developed by Zoink Games and sponsored by Coke Zero. Infinite Skies is an endless runner style minigame, where Cat collects precious gems and Coke bubbles to earn points, avoiding Nevi, mines, and falling off the edges of buildings. The game isn't terrifically interesting, it's just an ad for Coca-Cola Zero with a game attached, but it does have some funny quirks. Jack and Daxter appear in the minigame as a sort of power-up, helping Cat progress through the stage by riding on their hoverboard. Sackboy also appears, where the level becomes a side-scroller and Cat is turned into a sack person based on the Gravity Rush costume DLC for Little Big Planet. This is the only time I'm gonna be able to bring this up. Additionally, Cat makes an appearance in Nathan Drake's minigame, where the two are flying between biplanes, and the player has to shift gravity to collect artifacts. The game can no longer be played on newer hardware. However, the Team Alua Discord has made efforts to extract the game's files from the app for research and preservation. Side note. Oh, holy fuck, what the fuck? Oh my god, what did they do to my son? The Cat costume looks so much better. Why? What did they do? Gravity Rush VR. In an interview with Gravity Rush Central, Keiichiro Toyama mentions that Team Gravity did try experimenting with a potential VR experience. While they were able to get it to run, Toyama explained that the frame rate was unfortunately really low during testing, so they shuttered the project. However, if you're still interested in getting your VR fix, well, Gravity Rush VR was a project spearheaded by Team Alua, a Gravity Rush fan dev group. The project was supposed to port areas from Gravity Rush into VR chat. As of right now, Old Noir is the only place you can play in right now, and you can only run it in desktop mode. Ironic, huh? Cut ice-themed rift plane. In the Gravity Rush Remastered gallery, there's a piece of concept art that shows off an ice-themed rift plane, with snowflake structures decorating the plane. There also appears to be another part of Hexaville, as well as trains in the rift. Maybe this is the in-game equivalent to the Polar Express? Whatever purpose this plane had, as well as what power-up might have been in it, the plot relevance or location it might have served is mostly unknown, or it could have just been replaced by one of the other rift planes that we got in the final game, but who knows. Dusty and SHEEAAGH were split. In Gravity Rush 2, we learned that Cat and Raven are supposed to be two parts of one whole. However, they split off, one becoming Cat and the other becoming Raven, and with it, their own guardians, Dusty and SHEEAAGH. Please ignore everything that happened in Botum. No, stop looking, that's not real anymore. I guess you could say this is sort of confirmed in the Gravity Rush storyboards. It has a panel labeled Electricity vs. Gravity Griffin, and a griffin is a mythical creature commonly represented as an animal with an eagle head and a lion's body. Additionally, Kai's guardian whelp is a combination with a moose and avian wings, so the idea that Dusty and SHEEAAGH are two parts of a whole is more than plausible. Raven's dock outfit. We can finally talk about that piece of concept art I kept teasing. In the same Japan Studio Fun event where the original storyboards were revealed, this piece of concept art of Cat and Raven in nurse outfits also surfaced, dating it before Gravity Rush 2. Now, with Cat, it could be explained away as part of the original game's vision, seeing as the storyboard art for Chapter 31 has Cat visiting Denelica in a nurse outfit, and that's great and dandy. But why is Raven also in a nurse outfit? She's not normally a playable character, so she doesn't have the same incentive to have alternate costumes. Was she also supposed to appear with Cat to meet Denelica? Was there a side mission where they would both need to work together in these outfits, or was someone in the art department feeling quirky? I mean, she does look kind of cute in that outfit. The Nevi have names. Yes, fun fact, these different looking Nevi have their own names. Of course, you wouldn't know that if you didn't look at the Gravity Rush Remastered gallery, or, looked it up in the Gravity Rush wiki. There's too many of them to name individually, so here's some of my favorites. The basic Nevi enemies are called the Are, the swordfish is called a Maloid, and these fucked up dog looking things that freak the fuck out of me and honestly still do are called Lorets. Oh yeah, and there's Nushi. Fuck Nushi. Callie is still mentally a child. Despite her physical body appearing far more mature than she did in the Overture, Callie's mental state still appears to be much more like that of a young child. What fucks me up is how. How the fuck did she go from this to this? There's no fucking way that 3 years since Cat disappeared that Callie would have been a fully fledged adult unless she was like fucking 17. And if she was, then she's like at a weird fucking point where she could potentially begin to provide for herself and Durga during the Overture. Unless I'm like missing something really important. Not only that, but her fucking character art doesn't look like she's 17 either. If becoming an angel involves this weird accelerated aging thing, then it would make sense why Callie isn't above calling Dr. Brahmin daddy, or throwing a temper tantrum when Cat keeps asking questions, or when they try to bring Cece out of Durga in the finale of Chapter 3 and she throws a fucking... fuck. Republique cameo. Republique is an episodic stealth game developed by Camouflage and Logan Games, and published by Gung Ho Online. Are you starting to notice a pattern here? The PS4 version of the game contains a limited time DLC outfit of Cat's costume, made available between March 22 and April 4th. The game itself also appears as a collectible in Episode 1, with commentary from Cooper stating that it's one of the most innovative games from Japan, enjoying the gravity mechanics, the Parisian aesthetic, and prefers the Japanese title over the localized name. It's also presented as a fucking floppy disk, like bitch, no one knows what those are anymore, and no way that shit's gonna fit. Boutome was destroyed. As a refresher, the lost city of Boutome lies at the very bottom of the world pillar, this cracked egg looking ass thing. Note how close that is to the darkness below. Also note that according to multiple sources, such as Singlor and the Council of Eto, the darkness at the bottom of the world pillar is rising and swallowing the bottom first. I guarantee you that by the time Chapter 4 of Gravity Rush 2 begins, or hell, even way before that, the entirety of Botum, or whatever's left of it after Raven's choice, is completely fucking gone by now. If the shifters ever delayed their arrival down to Botum in the first game, all of those kids would be fucking gone. Soul Sacrifice Delta Cat Costume. Soul Sacrifice Delta is an action RPG released for the PS Vita and developed by Marvelous AQL in Japan Studio. Yeah, have you noticed the pattern? Yeah, they put cat in this game too. Gravity Rush's story is about climate change.
Hey, so, Editor Diego here again. So, originally this entry was going to be long and melodramatic, discussing the inequalities of Gravity Rush and making parallels to the real world. But honestly, I felt like it ruined the pacing of the video and was just, like, too preachy. So if you want to know more about this topic, there's a video by Solid Arf that does a better job going into great detail. I'll put that in the description. But here's a Cliff Notes version of it. Jurga Parlau and the World Pillar have literal tiers of class built into their design, with La Elgona, Colmosna, and Havana representing wealth divide and authority enforcing that divide, while Eto and the World Pillar represent first world countries and their mismanagement of resources, which causes a two-thirds world to sink into the Sea of Darkness. We could even see parallels like that in the current day with wealth inequalities of different countries and populations, and global warming causing island nations like Tuvalu to literally sink into the ocean.
Electricity is in the first game. Among the cut content of Gravity Rush, as it was the split into two games with a different vision from the original, one constant is electricity's appearance. In the storyboard, we see that there was going to be a battle with electricity in Chapter 4-8. In an early 2010 build of the game, a portrait of electricity can be seen among the series of characters, and in the Gravity Rush Remastered gallery, there's a piece of concept art that shows Cat interacting with a large crystal, one that looks remarkably similar to how it did in Gravity Rush 2 when Kai freed electricity from her prison. Minecraft tells you to play Gravity Rush now. In Minecraft's 10th anniversary webpage, the devs go through a timeline of Minecraft's development and side projects. In the 2014 section, they highlighted that Minecraft was released on the PS Vita with the caption, "Play Gravity Rush right now." That's in order. So nice of them to plug such a niche game. Tearaway Pop-Up Pack. Tearaway is a 3D platformer developed by my favorite Hugbugs, Media Molecule. The pop-up pack is a cosmetic pack that comes with neat papercraft models as well as decorations for the player's creations, one of them being Dusty. Oddly enough, while it was a pre-order bonus for the game, it's also available for purchase, but only on European storefronts for 99 euro cents, or whatever the equivalent of whatever European currency is eligible. You cannot get this in North America.
Alright, quick update. So now that I have actually played Tearaway, there's actually a reason why this pack isn't available for purchase in the Americas, and that's because the content in it is already included in the base game now? I guess? I don't know if this is just because, I don't know if this is in like the standard release, or because I'm like playing it through PS Plus that I have it like automatically in the game, but yeah, I can confirm that, at least with my copy of the game, that the pop-up pack is already included in the game. Which raises the question of why the fuck is it available in purchase for Europe?
Enigma of Sepia.
Yeah, that's right. This is another entry that wasn't included in the original Iceberg. I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
Enigma of Sepia is a mobile gacha game developed by Unicorn Well Technology and features gender-bent versions of popular anime characters like Goku, Naruto, JoJo. I hate these actually. But the one on our crosshairs is Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. Or, Eldwin, as the game calls it. And dude, they were in the same fucking thing. When I first saw it, I was originally going to give it the benefit of the doubt, but there are several elements that were lifted straight from Raven's character design. Elements such as the belt, the bracelet, and even her fucking chest markings, which is not something that the original Edwin had. Whether this counts as plagiarism or not, I have no goddamn idea, but the designs are just
too similar to each other for it to simply be a coincidence. Picado Knights. Yeah, back in the fucking booth again. Picado Knights was an online fantasy brawler developed by Game Arts for the PS Vita. Can you take a guess why it's here? Yeah, they put Cat and Friends in this game too. Oddly enough, this collaboration isn't as well documented as the others, given the fact that the game largely flew under the radar as a Japanese exclusive game, with the Silicon Era article and this video seemingly being the only documentation I could find. Hell, we didn't know about it until about March 12th when we were first drafting the script because of how obscure it was.
Cancelled Unica, and Shifter 1.0 Raven Figma figures. This entry initially implied that these figures were supposedly part of a cancelled Figma line for Unica and Shifter 1.0 Raven. However, it's been revealed that these figures are actually independently made. They originate from a garage kit dealership called Kojira Shinkai, ran by a person of the same name, or even possibly a pseudonym. These figures had a very limited release with very few made and sold. They also made a cat figure as well. Koei Ghost is real. In the side mission Forbidden Games, you investigate a demon-worshipping group of girls who attempt to summon a ghost named Koei. Yes, this is exactly how it's pronounced.
Korue.
It's revealed by the end of the chapter that this Koei stuff is just a misconstructed retelling of the events of Gravity Rush, where Echo was possessed by a Nevi. However, at the end of that same chapter, there's a perspective shift where an entity sneaks up on Cat only to show nothing. Could this Koei thing secretly be real? Nevi and the Guardians are the same species. This is a theory that states that somehow, the Guardians and the Nevi are connected in some way. This may stem from the first game, right before entering the Mirage Rift plane in episode 10. Dusty eats a piece of Nevi poison, fucking idiot, which affects Dusty's health and your gravity meter duration. You could also consider Wulp and Kai transforming into the destructive force with a Nevi-like weak points in its body. I personally don't buy it, but it's feasible. Yin and Yang theme. In Raven's choice, Raven has to contest with Lumino and Tenebria, the physical manifestations of light and dark. They share a lot in common with the Chinese philosophy of yin-yang, the complementary forces of interconnectedness. Now, the definitions of yin and yang may vary slightly, but the generally agreed upon definition is that yin, the dark side, represents earth, darkness, femininity, and coldness, while yang represents light, heaven, masculinity, and warmth. We can see these aspects manifest with Tenebria and Lumino, with the former's feminine form and cold attitude towards humanity, and the latter's masculine form and hot-headedness. When they are defeated at the end of Chapter 5 in the DLC, they leave behind an orb that looks very similar to the Taijutsu symbol, the one everyone thinks of when they hear yin-yang. If I may also throw my own hat into the ring, I'd argue that Cat and Raven, as well as the Nevi, technically fit under this theme as well. Cause, think about it. Raven's character design focuses strongly on black, and while black is also very prominent in Cat's character design, her bright blonde hair works as a great counter to Raven's. Their personalities are almost polar opposites when they first meet, with Cat being the hi, happy, cheery girl, and Raven as a brooding bitch lady. Not only that, but we also have light and dark Nevi, with the light acting naturally passive, while the dark Nevi engages in aggressive behavior. Although, I guess, if we look back at the original definitions that I gave, I suppose that also kind of runs counter to what I originally established. All of this could just be me rubbing two brain cells together without a single thought behind it, but the idea is there. The idea is there. Cat's look is not influenced by Gyaru and Genguro culture. Have you noticed that Cat has fairly darker skin tones compared to the people around her? There's a point to this, I promise. Gyaru is a Japanese fashion culture with a focus on going against Japanese culture norms, referring to women who are cheery and sociable. Genguro is a subculture of Gyaru, roughly translating to burnt black look, or dark tanning, and is characterized by heavy eyeliner, bleached hair, and, well, the iconic tan skin. Giving Kat's appearance and personality in the games, it's easy to see the connection. The blonde hair, the dark skin, the cheery demeanor definitely fit in line with the Gyaru and Genguro subcultures. What's interesting is that writer Naoko Sato and producer Makoto Isomine were both concerned that quote-unquote Japanese conventions would turn away overseas audiences. So they leaned towards not just norms that align closer to French or European norms, but also constrained Kat's personality to be more in line with quote-unquote an ordinary person and limiting some of those conventional anime tropes. Now, it's still very, very likely that the developers may have taken some inspiration from these subcultures, but the European backdrop of the game could also point to Kat's design being closer to like a stranger in a strange land in a sense. Raven on a trailer of Colors Live on Nintendo Switch. Colors Live is a digital art program similar to something like Ibis Paint or Eclipse Studio Paint. In a Kickstarter trailer for the Nintendo Switch port, you can see a painting of Raven among the many art pieces shown for the trailer. Side note, it didn't affect me just how technically cost effective this could be to a kid or someone doing digital art. A brand new iPad is anywhere between $350 and $1,000 by itself, while a Switch is anything between $200 to $350 today. And then you have the actual program, which is a $30 one-time payment, and that's super cool, but it also raises the question of who the fuck is drawing on a Nintendo Switch? Singlor is Sagasi. This is a theory that Singlor is actually the wandering painter Sagasi. It's an interesting theory that could be backed up, such as some of the Sagasi paintings being in places that no ordinary human would naturally get to, and Singlor's affliction would allow him to potentially reach these places. But there's several problems with this. One, Singlor would need a lot more knowledge than any normal person would have, such as knowing the origins of the Nevi and the World Pillar, which is something more in line with knowledge that the creators would know. Two, some of these places where the paintings reside would still likely be impossible to reach even with the space-time fuckery Singlor is going through. Three, the ending of Raven's choice. Raven is from Eto. In Raven's choice, the very first quote-unquote important memories is a basket where Sachia was found by her adoptive parents. When the memory disappears, it leaves behind a crater, evidence of a heavy impact. It could be theorized that this version of Sachia/Raven was actually from Eto, who somehow fell from the World Pillar all the way down to Hexaville. This is an interesting theory, and I really like that idea, but oddly enough, the shoe memory also leaves behind its own crater. Does that mean that her shoes also fell from Eto too? Look, it's a cool idea in theory, but I just think that some of these manifestations of Raven's memories they've literally just fallen into the labyrinth of memories and caused the impact. Though I suppose that also doesn't explain why some of the things like the birdcage and the bus don't have craters of their own. Who the fuck knows though, all of this got retconned at the end of the game and I fucking hate it. Gravity Rush 3. Gravity Rush 3 is a sort of hypothetical sequel to the series if Keiichiro Toyama and company ever were to have the opportunity to make it. In an interview, it stated that if he were to ever get around to making a new game, it would be 1. A blank slate given that Cat Story is already over. 2. New hardware that allows for quote-unquote a new way to express things. And 3. It'd be up to Sony to greenlight it. And God knows they're not gonna fucking greenlight anything anymore. Knack in the Gravity Rush 2 files. On the cutting room floor, one of the files hidden in Gravity Rush 2 is this fuck-ass golem character. This is Knack from the game of the same name. Why the fuck is he here? Pop quiz, does anyone know who developed this game? If you said FromSoft, I have glue sticks I'd like to sell to you. Could Cat survive? These are a series of increasingly absurd Reddit posts that ask the question, could Cat survive? Ranging from Equestria and Craftworld to Hell and the First Indochina War. I believe these were first started by SHEEAAGH but completely got out of control. Missing orphans case. We're gonna be in a little deeper territory here. So spoiler warning again. I've said it all the way in the beginning of the video, but I feel like this is something very important. But I'm also gonna add like a mild trigger warning. Let's get into it. In Gravity Rush 2, there's a case called the Missing Orphans incident. Note that this is different from the Lost Tribe in the first game. The Missing Orphans incident is first hinted in the opening of Overture Part 1, where we hear a conversation between Callie and Durga scavenging for food before presumably getting kidnapped. We can see the full extent of the case as posters are plastered everywhere in the opening of Part 1 and in Kat's house in Part 2, showing the extent of this mass disappearance. We later see that in New Hiralion, a series of cradles, these pods that are presumably holding the orphans, including Callie and Durga. Their purpose is to find something or create something called the Star Genome, something that, while not explicitly explained in the overture or in the game, can theoretically allow people who carry it to become angels. Throughout the game, hints are dropped about the case, such as how Dr. Brahmin saw Callie and her sister as quote-unquote compatible and were given the Angel Egg. The mission, The Grand Illusion, where a suspect elaborates on how the orphans were gathered before it's eventually revealed that Dr. Brahmin is the mastermind behind the case. After fighting Callie Angel, and after completing the Grand Illusion side mission, you can talk to Chaz's, which you'll have to find him on your own because he's not in any designated position. But once you do find him, you can talk to him and he gives you closure on the case. After searching through Brahmin's airboat, the police discovered bodies that belonged to children, the missing orphans. Orphans like Callie and Durga that were experimented on and, unlike the two girls, didn't survive. This feels like a genuine moment of just like quiet fridge horror. In a game where shadow creatures can possess a girl like a puppet, schoolgirls performing ghost rituals, this fucking thing, and a girl that literally turned into like a fucking flesh tumor of arms and limbs and just fuck. And the game's literal equivalent of Satan as well. The real terror all along just isn't some fantastical creature. It's just something a little too real. Something that hits a bit too close to home. And that's it. That's the whole thing. I wish this game and its sequel would come out on PC already so others can experience this gem, but for the time being, you can experience the game for yourself on PS Vita or PS4, and even PS5 if you have that. If you're still here, thanks for sticking around to me blabbing about a niche fucking game series.
It's been a long time coming, and honestly, I'm really glad to have it out. 10 months is probably the longest I've ever worked on a project, and honestly, I don't want to spend 10 months on another project again. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes details, like how I made the transition scenes, or stuff that I had to cut out, but who knows, maybe if this video does well, I could probably share that if you guys are interested. Thanks to all the people whose footage I've used for this entire video, but special thanks to SHEEAAGH for making the Iceberg and being a genuine help for the project. A lot of these entries I probably wouldn't have been able to figure out on my own. Gravity Rush Central for cataloging as much Gravity Rush content as possible. There was also a lot of just valuable information that was in there, so thank you so much. Team Alua for cataloging game resources and research. XYZ for the VR chat footage. My computer could not do it. The Gravity Rush community as a whole for just being cool as hell. I love you all. Keiichiro Toyama and all of Japan Studio for creating Gravity Rush. And you. Thank you for watching.